welcome back to my channel. This is Alexis here, and today I'm going to go over all my eyeshadow palettes I have in my collection, and we're just going to see what I have and go through everything and see what I like and what I don't like. Starting with this palette right here. This is my Tarte palette. This is called the Make Believe in Yourself palette. It is very colorful, has a bunch of shimmer shadows. It has one matte and a face highlighter. This palette is really nice. It does very well with the shimmers. I just don't use it a lot because they are colors that I usually wouldn't use. But overall, I like this palette. Next is this NYX Ultimate palette. It has some matte shades in there. It has some glittery shades. It has some shimmer shades. It's a warm tone palette. I like this palette a lot. It's a very, very, very good palette. I like it so much. Next we have this Morphe palette. This is the 35F, and this palette is very pretty. I love it. Has a bunch of shimmers and one row of mattes, and it's very fall-like. I use it a lot. Next I have the Chocolate Gold palette from Too Faced, and I love this palette as well. I think this is one of their best palettes they've released in a while. It is mostly all shimmers, and they're very pigmented, and there's a few mattes there. And it is very pretty, pretty, pretty. I love it. Next I have is a Jeffree Star palette, the Thirsty palette. I just got this palette recently, and I have only played with it a couple of times, but it's very summery, and I love the pops of color. The shimmers are really beautiful as well. Very pigmented, very easy to work with. Very, very, very like that palette. Next, I have a palette from my BoxyCharm with Pure Cosmetics. This is also a warm tone palette with like a pop of color. This palette is alright. It's not my favorite palette. It's not as pigmented as I thought it would be, especially that blue. So, next I have another palette from Too Faced, the Natural Love palette. I think this palette is very beautiful. It is aesthetically pleasing to me. I love that. There's a bunch of shimmers and mattes, and they're very pastel colors, those pinks. Really like that. It's a very pretty palette, and I like this palette a lot as well. It's very, very pretty. Next, I have another Too Faced palette. You can see where we're going with this. The Peanut Butter and Jelly palette. Again, it's a very warm tone palette with a pop of color. That jelly color, that purple color is really pretty. Goes really nice on the eyes. It smells really good as well if you care about that. But you can see that I really love Too Faced palettes just because the packaging gets me every time. Next, I have this palette from a BoxyCharm called Almar. And again, this is a very warm tone palette with pops of color. The shimmers are thebomb.com. They are very, very, very pigmented, and they are one swipe. Next is this Too Faced Peanut Butter and Jelly palette. It's very, very pretty, and I like it a lot. And that Bee's Knees color is very, very pretty. It has shimmery gold in it. Next, I have my Carly Bible palette. This palette, there was a two-part edition. This is the second one. I had the first one, and I gave that away to my sister because I was like, why do I need both these palettes when they're basically the same thing? So a few more colors are added, a few more highlighters. It's a very pretty palette. Haven't used it in a while, but I really do like that palette. It's very pretty. Next, I have a Crown Cosmetics palette from my BoxyCharm. It is a warm tone palette again. As you can see, I love warm tone palettes. It's really pretty. The pans are huge, and I've used it a couple of times, and I like it so far. Next is the 35O palette from Morphe. I recently just got this palette from Ulta. It was $15. It was on sale, so I was like, why not? Huh? Why not? It's really pretty. I've used it like once, barely, and I like it a lot. Next, I have a Huda Beauty palette. The thing is, with this Huda, I'm not going to get into it, But I have this palette. It's very pretty. I've used it a few times. I love those purpley colors. Again, warm tone palette. It is very nice. The shimmers work very well. I like that glittery color. But yes. Next I have a ColourPop palette, the Cute AF palette. Again, a warm tone palette with some pops of colors, that yellow, some shimmers. I've used this once and I liked it so far. Really happy I purchased that. Next I have a Too Faced palette, the Sweet Peach palette. We've all seen this palette a million times. Used to be one of my faves. Smells very good. Warm tone palette. Very, very nice palette. I love that. Next I have a palette from e.l.f. These baked eyeshadows. Haven't used this in forever. Probably should throw it away. Haven't used it in a long, 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 long time. Whoop, I can't even get it open. There we go. Again, warm tone palettes are my thing. Should probably throw this away because it's pretty old. Next is a palette from ColourPop. You had me at Hello palette. I got this in my BoxyCharm 1 month. Oh my gosh, the thing about this palette, you can see my cover is all ripped up because this palette, if you ripped off the sticker, it had Kathleen Light's name under it. So I wanted to see if that was true, and it was. I saw it, and I was like, what the heck? But this palette is also a very warm tone palette. Has a pink in it. Really pretty. I've only used it like once, but I like it. Next I'm going to have is the Naked Heat palette by Urban Decay. You've all seen this palette. It's a very warm tone palette. Bunch of reds. It's an alright palette. I feel like I get the same looks every time I use it, but straight warm tone. And it's nice packaging. I like the packaging. Next is another e.l.f. Palette. Should probably throw this one away too. It's baked highlighters, baked eyeshadows. Warm tone. There's a gray in there. Probably should throw that away. Next is a Naked palette, the Smoky palette, which I'm pretty sure they don't even make anymore. It's a bunch of gray, silver, smoky eye. You get the logistics of it. You're trying to make a smoky eye with it. I love it. Love it, love it, love it. I don't use it a lot though. Next is a Too Faced Just Peachy Mattes palette. Again, warm tone palette. Smells very good though. I love the way it smells. I do really love this palette. The mattes are incredible. They blend very well. And it is a very pretty palette. Next I have the Morphe Jaclyn Hill palette. We've all seen this palette about 1,000 times, I'm pretty sure. It is a beautiful palette. I like it's a warm tone, has pops of colors. Those last two rows I don't use a lot, but I use the first 3. And I should use those colors way more because they're really pretty. I regret not using them. So I should definitely work on using color. I'm just scared. I don't really wear color that much. Next is a Golden State of Mind palette by ColourPop. This is an all shimmery palette. At first I did not like this palette because I would use a brush to use it, but now I use my fingers and it works perfectly and I love it. I should use it more. Also a very warm tone palette, as you can see. Next is a Real OG palette, my first palette ever. Uh-oh, my feet are in this video. Naked Urban Decay 1 palette. This is my first palette I ever bought. I've hit pan on some shadows. Can't believe it. Haven't hit pan in any shadows probably since then. And I should probably throw this away, but I'm going to keep it for just a little bit longer. And lastly, I have my Huda Beauty Mauve Obsessions palette. This little palette is all pinks. And I feel like this palette is for like Valentine's or for when you're feeling really girly. It's very small and good for travel.